Okay, so sorry about my little frog I have here. It's allergy seasons and I sound kind of croaky like an old lady. Anyway, so I want to talk about these federal layoffs and just I have my personal feelings about it, but I'd like to know what your thoughts are on it. So basically, the way that I understand it is there are things being put into place right now to downsize the government staff, employees. And originally they were given a buyout package. I don't know how exactly that works. I've never heard of that before until now. How, would that have been a better deal? Not sure. Versus their quote severance, if they even get a severance, because right now I think they're just laying off probationary people, which, if you don't understand that, my understanding is it's kind of the concept of last one hired, first one fired when they do cut back. So probationary people would be people who are still new hires and haven't become tenured yet, or they're still in that probationary period when you're first hired, that they're trying to find out if you're suitable for the job, which is pretty typical when they do layoffs, usually, not always. But I did read somewhere, I can't remember where it was, that the people who are getting their layoff letters now this is what I hate about layoffs, okay, in general. There's a line in there that says something to the effect of, you're not quite up to what we were looking for. You're not doing a good enough job. And the reality is, if they're laying off probationary people, first of all, you can't expect them to be a top employee. That's not realistic if you're a new hire. It takes time to become proficient at your job. Even if you're good at a certain skill, you still have to learn the actual processes and culture, etc., all the things that go in that are very specific to that job at that company, or in this case, the government. So I just think I hate lines like that, because that's not 100% true, and I think it's unfair. That's what I think. Not that it matters, because if they're going to lay you off, they're going to lay you off, okay? So people are getting laid off, and if they're probationary people, a lot of them probably are not entitled to severance packages, although I do believe there are some that are getting severance, just based on what I'm hearing through different sources. There's been a lot of them. And I gotta be honest with you, though, I think that our government staffing of hired employees is very heavy. You gotta remember, regardless of how you feel about Elon or Trump, they are both business people, okay? They know how to run businesses better than I do, okay? And better than most of us, because they've been successful in business. And I don't, like I said, it doesn't matter how you feel about them. And yes, I know Trump had bankruptcy. That sometimes is just a business decision, okay? When you go at a high level. But yes, they've managed to grow very, very large businesses, so they know how to do that. And so from that perspective, I can see the rationale behind it, that there's a lot of unnecessary people who are employed, and that they're overstaffed for things that they may have multiple people doing a job that one person could do. And that is a waste. I'm sorry. That's how I feel about it. You may not agree with me. And I've been laid off, so I know that it sucks. Okay? Nobody wants to be laid off. It is horrible. But, keeping in mind the difference between how they were laid off and how I was laid off and how most of us are laid off, this did not come as a surprise. They were given an option to buy out. Like I said, whatever that means, I don't know what that means exactly, but they knew it was coming, so they had the opportunity to look for other jobs, or at least start looking. And two, I'm assuming that the buyout must have been a better deal than either no severance or your severance package. I mean, what would be the purpose of it otherwise, right? So, whereas when I was laid off, there were subtle signs, but nobody said, you're going to be laid off in 3 weeks. You better start looking for a job. You know what I'm saying? They just came in and they said, we're laying off your team. That's what happened to me. And I think that's how most layoffs are handled. So, as far as that goes, we knew about it. The whole country knew about it. So it wasn't a surprise. So if they chose not to take the buy off, and that was their choice. And I do think, as hard as it is, that this is what I'm experiencing. Remember, now I grew up and lived outside Washington, D.C. for most of my adult life, with the exception of the last 10 years. I knew a lot of people who had government jobs, and there was always this feeling like, and I was even told at a job that I applied for, that once you get past a certain point, it's impossible to lose your job. Now, this was a long time ago, but if you think about it, if that's been the mentality for my whole life, pretty much my whole adult life, of people who get jobs working in the government, that once you're in, it's very hard for them to fire you unless you do something totally egregious. Why not, And then you don't even have to do your job. And there was somebody that I knew personally, okay, who worked for a government agency as a handyman, a repair person, maintenance guy. And he was in a leadership position, so he had an office, and he would go in, and he told me this, he would go in and take a nap every day while he was working. This is somebody who told me this, a friend of mine. Like, okay, because I have never had a job where I could go in and take a nap. Never. And I think most of y'all listening to me, you probably haven't had a job where you could just go take a nap, unless there were other circumstances. Like, for instance, my mother-in-law, she was in nursing, okay, and the way that they scheduled the medical staff, not the admins or maintenance staff or anything like that, but the medical staff specifically in hospital settings, sometimes they're working very, very long shifts, like 12 or more hours, and they may go into an empty room and take a nap. But that is different. That is very, very different. And I would make exception for somebody like that, because in a hospital setting, it's kind of like rain or shine. You're going to get slammed or it's dead. And personally, I would want somebody who's taking care of my health to be alert and rested, okay? Whereas, I might be feeling a little off one day, but I can still clean a house, okay? You feel what I'm saying here? That's a little bit different, and it's a whole different business. But other than that, I've never heard of somebody going to work at McDonald's and taking a nap in the break room, okay? Or, maybe in a private practice of some sort, not necessarily medical, but like even legal, that may work. But hourly employees, that just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, this guy, he told me that's what, like, he was not even ashamed. I mean, I don't get it, but he can't be the only one, But he had the office, so he had the opportunity. He just locked the door. And I asked him about that, like, aren't you afraid you're going to get caught? And he's like, no, I just locked the door. Well, I would wonder, truthfully, I would wonder myself if I had to go ask him for assistance, or, you know, if he was reporting to me and I was going to his office and the door was locked. I would wonder what the heck he was doing in there anyway, to be honest. You know, that's kind of shady in and of itself. But, you know, he retired. He made good money. He retired, and now he's living whatever life he lives, you know. But, yeah. And then I've seen other people who, well, I'm not even going to go there because there's always incompetence in every business. But, yeah, I've seen people who are very incompetent and didn't understand how they got that job to start with, so... But in the end, there is something that I've noticed, and this kind of comes from working with the doctor's office. You know, we're given, this is not a blanket statement, okay, either, but we're all given certain talents. So one of the things that I experienced when I worked with the doctor's office, and they were good practitioners, okay, as far as treating patients. But when it came to business, some of them weren't so good, you know. And I think that maybe kind of what's happening with our government is that, you know, they may be good as far as law and negotiations or whatever it is that they have to do with the government as far as politics are concerned, but as far as the business of running the country, maybe not so much. And you know, our economy, I don't think I'm alone in this, not when eggs are so ridiculously high right now, along with a lot of other groceries. Like my daughter was telling me what she spent at the grocery store this morning. And she only buys for herself. She doesn't have a family to feed. I think we need somebody who is going to straighten out our economy. And I know sometimes you may feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, which I kind of am. I'm not going to deny that. Because, keep this in mind, you know, I had said this in other videos too, you got to work with what you have. And right now, this is the people that we have. You and I do not have the ability to go in and do an overhaul of, not today anyway, an overhaul of who is working in our government, whether it's the president or you know, the mayor of your town. You have to wait until it's time to elect these people, and then you have to let them do their job. And you may not agree with every single thing that they do. You know, you probably don't. You probably don't. The truth is that because there's so many issues, and none of us are 100% one way or the other. So we have somebody that, you know, feel they can do good at one thing, and you agree with their politics or their policies or their ideology on a certain topic, but not on another. But I think generally speaking, things are really expensive here, much more expensive than they should be, my personal opinion. And we need to get control over the spending, and it's going to start at the top so that our tax dollars can go to things that are more beneficial to the American public in a variety of different ways. And painful as it is, there are people coming into the workforce unemployed very soon who have had government jobs. And so now they're going to have to be out here with the rest of us looking for a job. So the next step is, and this is something that Trump has talked about, I don't know how we are as far as in line with this, but not just these government employees, but also other American employees, just regular citizens, creating jobs so that we have an income. we'll have to wait and see how that pans out.